My name is Bob Mann, and I'm a senior lecturer at Texas State University. And I grew up in Cameron, Texas, about an hour and 20 minutes from Austin. A little country town, but a sweet town. My mother was 15 when I was born. My father was 27. They had met during the war. As soon as they got married, I was conceived, they shipped him overseas. So I didn't see him until I was 2 years old. Her name was Mrs. Dusick, fourth grade, pulled me up, said, "You are going to be a writer." And from that point forward, that's sort of what I wanted to do. Started to work for the newspaper when I was 12 years old, and went on to Sam Houston State College. I went through a first year of drinking beer and being no good, and but I did okay. I got through, and then that summer, I came to know someone I'd gone to high school with better and got married at 19. Well, I think back on it, I had a 55 Dodge. We had a little $60 a month apartment. It wasn't all that hard, but I weighed 120 pounds and had a gorgeous new wife and a little baby, and it wasn't all that bad. And got a great job offer in January of '66. I graduated in the middle of the year to go to work for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And then that I was off. I spent 3 years there and began as a copy editor, and then I got promoted to night city editor at 24, the youngest editor in the history of the newspaper. I wanted to be more than a journalist. I wanted to be an advocate. So I went to grad school, got it in Colorado, and during that year finished my MA. My young bride met someone else, gutted me. And I went home one night. I'd just finished grad school. I'd been named the youngest managing editor of a daily newspaper in the country, and my house was empty. My daughter was gone. My wife was gone. So I had self-destructive behavior for a few months, but I came through it, and eventually came back to Texas to assume custody of my daughter. I started teaching at SMU in '71. I had SMU 5 years. I took a leave of absence, moved to D.C., went to work for Bob Kruger as a part-time speechwriter. Spent 2 years in the White House. I never can remember my title. It's the Deputy Assistant Secretary or Assistant Deputy Secretary of the President's Council on Wage and Price Stability. And a job came open at the Federal Communications Commission. Went to work for him for 2 years. We changed the world. We took licenses away from people who would not hire minorities. But when Ronald Reagan won in 1980, I guess, it took about 2 weeks to find me, so I was out. But I immediately got a call from Time Incorporated in New York, and I went up as Senior Vice President of Carl Bayer & Associates, and as the accounting exec for HBO. You have to understand, this was the 80s. I had an unlimited expense account. I had limo privileges. I was single. I had dark hair. I was hot. I had tailored suits. And I was a guy about town, and I knew movie stars. One day I looked up, and Bob Kruger, who had been defeated in '78, was getting ready to run for the Senate again. My friend called, and I said, "It's time to go home to help Bob." And I did, and he lost. But again, I got very lucky. I got a call from Ted Kennedy saying I might be running for the presidency in '88, and I ended up driving up and getting hired and spent the next 3 years working for the most recognizable man in the world. We became friends, and we'd occasionally, at least occasionally, do the town. Somebody said the press is more interested in my indiscretions than his. It was just a great experience, and I saw D.C. in a way that no one else could, and met all the Kennedys and all the famous politicians, and I came back to work for my great friend Gary Morrow, who then was land commissioner. Bob Hardesty, who's a former president of Texas State, came back to Texas, and we came to know one another again. He'd left Texas State and gone to D.C. And he said, "I want you to teach down there, although I'm not president anymore." Give them the experience I've always had to live with. Working for Ted Kennedy, young reporter of the Star-Telegram, young professor at 28, working in the White House for Hamilton and Jody Powell, I've always been intimidated. And that's when I began to be my best. Sometimes I probably talk too much about myself, but I like to think that there's a point to every one of those stories. If I decided I was going to write a book about how cool I am, that would, I'd take about 2,000 pages probably. And I'd be laughing. I want to get your attention. And I don't want fear, but I want your attention. And I have to be frank with you, I am so much attached to the students of Texas State. They got some bad habits, they drink too much, they get in barroom brawls too easy, but I understand that. They don't come to class with the same consistency that any other university I've taught at. I don't like to use the word love that much, but I love the Texas State student body. My only problem with them is they don't know how good they are. And I get frustrated. I spend enormous amounts of time evaluating students' work. I do 1, 2, and 3 page critiques. I don't just do little notes in the margin. It's what I do. I was an editor. A lot of journalism professors choose not. They got families. They got a real life. I don't. That's my enjoyment. I enjoy that. So hopefully I do it for them, but I do it for me too. It makes me feel good. I would say my goal is in the next, whatever I have left, 5, 10, 15, 5 minutes, I hope to write a serious book or two. I would like to die being thought of as a serious writer at some point. And what I want on my tombstone is he gave more than he took.